Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be attempting to draw a face and I'm going to walk through my process. I say attempting because I'm still learning a lot myself, but thought I'd share with you the things I have learned in case it helps anyone. The materials that I'll be using is an HB pencil, a blending stump, an eraser stick that you can just increase like this. It's really handy. I used to have the block erasers, but I find this one's able to be a little more precise, which is helpful. And then just a pencil sharpener. Okay, so to start, I'm going to draw just a circle. If your circle's not perfect, that is totally fine. Mine is never perfect either. Wherever there are imperfections, you can just go over those areas and correct them. The circle doesn't have to be perfect here though. Just needs to resemble a circle. And then the next thing we're gonna do is draw the center line of the face. And for this face that I'm using as a reference, the face is tilted a little bit and it's turned just a little bit. So for that reason, I'm not gonna draw a line straight down the center. You need to compensate for the tilt in the head. So I'm gonna actually go a little bit off center at the top and then kind of draw a curved line down to the bottom. And again, this line doesn't have to be perfect either or extremely precise. It just needs to kind of have that general direction and placement within the circle. Then the next thing we're going to do is draw a horizontal line across the circle. And what that one's going to do is sort of be our frame of reference for where the eyes are going to be and the kind of like tilt within the eyes as well. So that one's going to be not perfectly horizontal. It's going to be tilted a little bit. This one, I'm going to just go right here. Just trying to match the tilt of the eyes in the reference. So that's what determined sort of the angle of this line. Okay, so at this point, I like to draw in the eyebrows, and at this phase, we're just loosely drawing in some of these elements, because we're trying to just get the general placement right now. So we can always come back and adjust and tweak as needed. I almost always put the eyebrows just a little bit above this line. You can already see this eyebrow needs to go up just a little bit more. Okay. And if this looks familiar to anyone, I learned how to draw faces with the Loomis method. So this is sort of a interpretation of that. So the next thing I'll do is just lightly draw out the eyes. And one thing that's helpful here is just be really aware of the distance from the eyebrow to the top of the eye. So we can put a little mark there. And then the corner of the eye here is a little bit to the left of the end of the eyebrow. Okay. And then that edge is there. So again, just kind of putting down some reference points to make sure I get the placement close. And then at this phase, you just want to be really observant of those line angles. This one curves down just a little bit. And here we're gonna curve this one. And I know it may be hard, but try to not put detail in at this point. Because remember, we're just getting down the key elements, and then we'll look and see if we need to make any adjustments before we start adding detail. Same idea here. I'm just looking at the bottom of the eyebrow in the reference, and then trying to discern that distance from bottom of the eyebrow to top of the eye. Looks like it's about right here. So one other thing you'll want to do here is even draw a line from the corner of this eye, kind of matching the sort of the angle of this line that would go from the corner of this eye to the corner of this eye. And this reference line will be really helpful to ensure you get that the eyes placed correctly. Okay, so I'm gonna come down. This one curves a little sharper. Okay, that's not quite right there on the corner. So it looks like this line is a little flatter. This actually goes up a little bit. Okay. This needs to come a little sharper down. Okay, that's good for now. We can always come back and tweak that. I'm gonna go ahead and erase that reference line for now. All right, now we're gonna roughly sketch out the nose. For this one, I'm just trying to judge the distance. So sometimes draw this shadow line from the corner of the eyebrow to the bottom of the nose. There's a slight off-centeredness to that shadow line. And we're gonna curve it a little bit to keep following that shadow line. Okay, and then just gonna lightly sketch out the nose. Okay, and then we're gonna come at the center part. Okay, so this region here is just, again, that the shadow line that's separating like the shadow portion here to the highlighted portion here. I think that looks good for now. I mean, this, let me clean this up just a little bit. It's kind of a little closer there. Okay, so that looks pretty good placement-wise to me. Oh. Okay. So next we're gonna draw in the lips. Again, using shadow line, kind of shadow contour on the face to help me discern like the amount of space again. Okay. So what I do here is find the center of the lips and start there. It's almost always going to be sort of a V shape. That shape is a lot more pronounced on females. So we're going to just start with that. And then if your reference is not straight on, then, or in other words, the head is tilted a little bit, you'll obviously want to take that into account as you're drawing the lips. You know, thinking about how would the shape of the lip change if it's tilted. Another thing that I do here that's helpful is kind of use the placement of the eye to tell me where the end of the lip should be. So based on my reference, about right here in the eye, like if I draw a line down from the end of the lips in the reference, just kind of eyeballing it, it would come up to this point in the eye. So that tells me the lips need to stop about right there. Okay, we'll do the same thing on this side. So it looks like based on the reference, the lips end at about this point on the eye. So I'm going to draw that line down. And just really be focused on the line angle. That's what's really gonna sell it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So that's the top contour of the lip. Now I'm gonna draw the bottom of the top lip. So there's a line that comes down about right like that. And I'm just drawing what I see here in the reference. Not trying to make it extremely accurate or precise right now, since we're just kind of getting the placement of these elements again. Okay, so we'll leave it there. We'll have to come back and fix that some for sure. Next, the reference's mouth is open just a little bit, so we'll draw in that part. Teeth are a lot of fun. Just really tricky. It's all about getting the right shading on them. Okay, I think that's a little, you can see a little too much of the tooth there. Let me shorten that some. Okay, that looks a little better. I can see this tooth here. Probably putting more detail here than I should for what we're doing, but it can be hard sometimes to leave something really rough. Okay, so now I'm going to draw the top of the bottom lip using the same process as before. Okay, let me tidy this up just a little bit. This line's got to come down sharper. Okay. Now we're going to, I'm going to kind of draw a reference line here to help me gauge the size of the lip, kind of the bottom portion, just based on the reference. Okay, so that looks okay for now. For placement purposes, we'll definitely have to come back and fix a lot of what's going on there, but that's okay. So then we're going to draw the bottom of the chin. This can be a little tricky to gauge sometimes, but what I usually do to help me is I look at the distance between the top of the lip to the bottom of the nose and use that as a proportion to kind of judge this distance. So based on the reference, this distance here looks like about 1.5 times the distance from the bottom of the lip to the bottom of the chin. So I'm gonna just kind of lightly estimate that. And then I'm going to draw the shape of the chin. And this took me a while to figure out, just again, with drawing the shape of the chin. For a lot of my drawings, it looked off. What you want to do, or at least what I do, is again, use another element on the face to help you know when to start adjusting the lines or the curves of the side of the face. So for the reference, her chin starts to turn up right at about this point of the lip. So if I slide, just draw a line down. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so about right here. Starts to turn. Okay, that's good for now. So then we'll do the same over here. Just kind of looking at this shape. Kind of starts to turn a little bit more. And then the point where it goes from kind of the under part of the chin to the side of the face, getting that turn right, or sort of that edge right is critical if you want to get the likeness correct. And once again, what I do is use another element on the face to help me know where that turn is going to happen. So if I draw a line kind of from the side of the mouth, slightly tilted up, that's going to tell me where that turn is. So I'm going to go here and then start to do the side of the face line. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna draw a little bit of the hair in. Hair looks like the part in her hair is about, if I draw a line from about this part of the eye up. You don't have to actually draw the line, you can just eyeball it, but it looks like it's about right here. But then to determine at what point the hair starts vertically, in the Loomis method, they usually tell you to start it about like right here or so. So that's gonna get you in the ballpark normally. But I still, want to use my own judgment for the space here with the eyebrow, from like the top of the eyebrow to the to where the hair starts. So it looks like that distance is actually about right there. You can use another part of the face in the reference and do the same kind of thing we did here. The distance from the bottom of the nose to the top of the lip, and use that to judge the distance for the chin. You can do that same kind of thing up here. So if I look at the distance from bottom of the lip to the chin in the reference, that distance is about 1.25 times this distance. So again, just kind of trying to estimate. I mean, that looks pretty close. So whatever you need to do to try and get your proportions right, then do that, right? There's not just a one size fits all here. But that's what's been working for me. So I'll continue doing that until it doesn't work anymore. But right now we're just gonna draw the rough shape of the hair. So I'm going to just kind of follow what I'm seeing in the reference. If you have a hard time with hair, you are not alone. That is something I have a very hard time with as well. It just takes practice and learning the techniques. But a mistake that beginners make is drawing every strand of hair. You don't need to do that. You can just kind of draw a few pieces of hair in the direction that the hair is flowing, and our brains will connect the dots for us, and it looks a lot better. So this one going over the eye, have a strand kind of coming out this way. Okay, and let's do the top of the head here. so I'm going to erase a few of the reference lines. And we can erase this part of the face because that will be covered by hair. This is always one of my favorite parts, erasing the reference lines, and then you can really start to see the face come through and start to materialize. But we're going to draw a little bit more of the hair shape. All right. So I think that's good for now. We will come back later and add some more detail to the hair. I'm going to sharpen my pencil just a little bit. So I'm going to start adding some detail on the eyes. Actually, just do a little bit more here. Okay. Okay, so now the eyes. A couple things here that is really going to make them pop is shading for one thing. This little line, this little fold of skin. Well, let me actually shade just a little bit first. Just really lightly shading. And if you have a blending stump here, it's going to make this a lot easier. If you don't have a blending stump, you can use paper towel, kind of rolled up. To get a smooth shade. But then we're going to do the fold of skin. Right here. Okay. And actually, before I go further, I forgot to mention, before we start rendering details into the features, you want to look at the face, look at where the eyes are located, look at where the nose is located, the mouth, and see if the proportions are making sense for the reference that you're looking at. Because this is the time you want to make adjustments. You know, if you need to drop the eye a little bit, move the eye to the left, whatever it may be. Because once you start adding details, if you need to erase at that point, you're erasing a lot more of your work, and it's a lot more frustrating. So you want as much as possible to try to see if those elements are in the correct places at this point. But okay, so let's get back to the eye. So the center part of the eye is going to start. The shape is kind of like this. biggest thing that's helped me here is just really look at kind of how this shape compares to the rest of the eye. So is this curvature correct as it's going into the top of the eye, or does it need to be different? Then we're going to do the pupil. Okay. Pupils are pretty large here. And then obviously what's really going to set off the pupil is the highlight. So really be careful that you don't just color this entire thing black. Almost always there's a highlight in it. And that's really going to kind of bring some life to the eyes if you can nail the highlight. So for this highlight, there's 2 dots. There's a bigger one in the center and then a smaller one kind of beside it. Try and capture both of those. So you see how I just kind of created those shapes, and then I'll color in the pupil around that. Okay. And then this part, we're going to add just a little bit of detail. Then there's sort of a darker line around the edge. Okay, and then the white of the eye, you don't want to leave that white because for one, it's not perfectly white, and also we want to communicate that there's some curvature like there is in the actual eye. So you want to shade that just really lightly just to indicate there's the eye is actually the right shape. Okay, this is a little darker here, this part. Okay, so that looks good for now. Actually, let me add under the eye a little bit. A little bit of a shadow. Okay. I'll just do a little bit of some lines here to indicate eyelashes. Okay, so that's that eye. We'll come back and add a little bit more detail later. But now we're gonna do this eye. I think I need to go back and fix the shape a little bit. So let's go here. And it comes down. Okay, I think that's better. We'll give this a try. Okay, same sort of process. I'm actually gonna pull the hair over just a little bit more. Okay, let's get this part of the eye in. Take your time here. Okay, I need to sharpen my pencil a little bit. Okay, so for the pupil, same thing. We need to not color over, or not color, but draw over where that highlight's gonna be. This one is just a single circle. And it kind of stretches into the iris portion. Okay, let me make this one a little darker too. Okay. And then I'm going to add some detail to the iris. This one is a little bit darker. Okay. That's good for now. We can always come back, add some more detail. I'm gonna make this line a little sharper. And then add that fold of skin again above. This part will really help bring it to life, make it look more realistic. Okay, and then for this, for the whites of the eye on this one, it's more in shadow. So you want to recreate that in your drawing if yours is like that as well. Okay, a little bit shadow over here, but not as much. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of shading between the eyebrow and the top of the eye. This is going to give it some more shape. First, I'm going to draw eyebrows in just a little bit more. For the eyebrows, I just do little lines, as you can see. That usually works pretty good for me. Okay, but now let's add a little bit of shadows. And here you want to really try to watch closely, like where the shadows are a little darker than other spots. So for me, this region right here is a little bit darker than these on the sides. So you want to try to recreate that because that's going to give it that rounded shape. And then this is where the blending stump can really come in handy. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath the eye. Sometimes if the point of your pencil is too sharp, you can kind of break the tip off just slightly. If it's too pointy, it's hard to really shade effectively. I'm already seeing that's too dark. So here, if it's just very, very light, you're probably better off just using the blending stump. This part is a little darker though on the side to indicate the curvature. Then another thing I missed is right here, this corner has quite a bit of shadow. Okay, that looks a little better. And I'm going to kind of bring this shadow down here a little bit. Okay. I see something over here that I missed. Kind of add a little bit of a darker part there. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Now we're gonna render the nose some more, add some more detail there. It looks like what I'm trying to look at here is the shape of the shadow from the side of this eyebrow here down to where the shadow disappears in the nose. You want to try to get that curvature correct. And then obviously the shape too. That's really going to help bring it to life. So I can already see that the shadow needs to actually come over just a little bit. Okay. So I think I'm gonna have to move the nose over just a little bit in order for the shadow shape to be correct. That's okay though. Okay, so now with the nose, I'm following that contour of the shadow. It comes down and then it curves, and then it's starting to move to kind of the bottom of the nose where it's a lighter value. Okay, so then the shape. If you're having a hard time with noses, I recommend just spend 30 minutes to an hour drawing a bunch of noses. That's really going to help you just kind of understand the structure more. I've done that many times. So one thing I'm seeing is the value, or if you're not familiar with that term, it just means like the darkness or lightness. So the darker the value just means like the darker the shadow. So what I'm seeing is the value is darker here than it is under the nose, right? So that's something we'd want to translate to the drawing in order for it to look correct. Okay, so then we have a little bit of the shadow bleeding into this part of the nose. And I can see that these lines need to be adjusted. This one comes really out like that. That's more accurate. Okay, maybe a little too far. And so at this point, you just kind of got to play with it and wait till you get it right. I try and draw in the holes of the nose at the very end because they're very dark And once you draw them in, if you have to erase them, it can kind of leave a trace of that in the drawing, which we don't want. So I'm looking at the edge of the nose, and I'm seeing that it should line up pretty close to the edge of the eye here. So that tells me the nose needs to be enlarged a little bit. I drew it a little bit too small. So I'm going to fix that. It's okay. Okay, that's looking better. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna darken this a little bit more. And you don't want this to be a hard line. You want to kind of feather up the shadow along the nose, because that's what it would do in real life. It wouldn't be like a super hard line. And then, so the shadow part is easier in my opinion. But then we have the highlight, which is going to be the part on the nose that looks almost pure white. But then we have the midtone, so the part that's in between the highlight and the shadow. So similar with the eye that had the highlights, we want to kind of shade around where that highlight is. And for me, the highlight's like right here. That's a common place for it. And so I'm just kind of lightly shading around that area. Then I'm going to use the blending stump to help me out. There's another highlight right here. Try and include that too. I'm kind of just doing these dashed lines to put some graphite down for the blending stump to pick up and be able to work with. But remember, you want it to be really light for the midtones compared to the shadows over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and draw in the holes of the nose. As with everything, we want to try and match that shape as closely as possible to the reference, because that's going to be really important in order to capture the likeness. one thing I need to fix is this over here. This is a lot lighter. Okay, that's better. There's sort of a darker shadow there, but we'll come back to that. And here, okay, that's looking pretty good. I can see the shadow here needs to be darker value. If we want the nose to look more three-dimensional. Need a stronger shadow there. Then we'll use the blending stump to smooth that out. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now we're going to move on to the lips. The lips are something I'm still kind of struggling with at times. We want to draw this shadow here. Okay, so with the lips, it's helpful to think of them like two cylinders. And the reason that's helpful is just to think about the shading. So the bottom part of the lip is going to have some darker values than like the very center of the lip, just with how, if light is shining at the person's face this way, the light is going to be hitting directly at the center part of the lip, but the under part is going to be getting a little bit of shadow, right? So that's something I think about as I'm drawing. It may help you too. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to start by drawing some of the darker tones on the under part of the lip. And then in my reference, there's sort of like a shadow point in the middle here. Draw that in. And just drawing some darker tones. Okay. And you can see I'm kind of doing that feathering technique. Again, that's just gonna help make it a little more realistic. And then the top part of the lip is a little too dark. This side may be okay just because it's more in shadow, but that wasn't gonna help make it look very realistic. And especially in my reference, the top of the lip is actually where there's some highlight. So I need to lightly shade this and then kind of use the blending stump to help me out. And right at the top, there's You know, maybe we don't even need that highlight for right now. I think this is going to give us that curved look as it is. We'll just stick with that for now. Then the right side, a little bit darker, like I said. Still kind of doing the feathering. And the top of the lip over here is actually dark, so just leave that there. I sharpen my pencil real quick. Okay, so this needs to be a little darker. Okay, that's fine for now. We can come back, add more detail later. I'm actually gonna use the blending stump to create a little bit more of the face on the side here, just to kind of help me see what's going on more easily. If you have too much graphite in your blending stump, you can sort of reduce it here by just kind of scribbling in the margins some, so you can get a lighter shade. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna draw the bottom lip. Okay, for this one, we have darker part kind of at this edge. But then there's a really big highlight. So we need to be thinking about how we're gonna tackle that. Won't be too hard though. We'll be able to handle it. So we're gonna get that shape there. It's actually kind of more of this shape. One thing to watch for here are the angles of these kind of creases in the lips. You see how it's sort of curved? You want to include that in your drawing to give it that lifelike look. And really what's going to make this pop is just really paying attention to your values. Or in other words, the darkness and lightness. And for this lip, this region here I'm circling has a lot of highlight, probably the most out of any part of the lip. So I need to make sure I capture that. And then by the edge here, it's mostly in shadow. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm actually going to draw a little bit of the shadow under the lip. I mess this one up a lot. I make it too dark, so try to not do the same. Just needs to be really, really light. Should probably just use the blending stump, not a pencil like I'm doing, to get that super soft shadow. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then sometimes as you're drawing, you'll see other things you need to correct. One thing I just noticed, the face angle here on this portion is a little too flat, so I need to curve that up just a little bit. So let me adjust that. I mean, it's a really small detail, but when you're trying to capture the likeness, every 1 degree of an angle will be noticeable to our eyes. Okay, I'm just kind of looking at the inside of the mouth some more, kind of planning that out. I'm gonna make this tooth slightly. Also, if you have one of these eraser sticks, sometimes on the end it'll just be really caked on with graphite. And if you try and erase, it'll leave a mark like you see that. And that's frustrating if you're erasing a really small area with a lot of detail and it leaves a big mark like that. So you can just get rid of that on the side of your paper in case you didn't know that. Okay, so erase the bottom of the tooth just a little bit. Okay, make that just slightly longer. Okay, that is not what I wanted, so I'm gonna have to adjust that. It's close, but the tooth needs to be just a little smaller. Erase a little bit of my work here on the lips. It's okay. It's more important to get the correct shapes. There we go. I think that's better. So now I'm gonna just kind of lightly shade in this part of inside the mouth. And I'm doing it lightly because if you do it super dark at this point and you look back at it once it's done and realize something was off or you want to adjust, it would make it really difficult at that point because you've shaded so dark. So I think it's better to shade a little lighter. Just kind of block it in. And then if it all looks good, then you can darken it. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna add just a little bit of shading on the top of the tooth, since there would be kind of like a shadow there. I'm gonna darken the under part of the lip some more. Okay, we're gonna leave that for right now. Can come back if I need to. So at this point, what I like to do is look at the distance from the side of the lips to, let me draw this line in real quick. The side of the lips to the side of the face and kind of see if that's the right distance. And here I'm seeing I was off by quite a bit. So I need to take that in some. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, same kind of thing over here. I'm looking at my reference from the side of the eye to the side of the head. I think that's a little too far. This looks better. Okay, get rid of this stuff up here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna go in and work on my shadows of just sort of the cheekbones and forehead and stuff like that. Okay, so here, make sure this actually needs to kind of turn up right there. Yep, okay. Okay, so we have a lot of shadow over here. Start to lightly draw that in. just kind of looking at the shape of the shadow here, kind of comes out a little bit on the cheekbone and then kind of dips down. And depending on how realistic you want it to look, just one of the keys is going to be getting super, super smooth transitions. So I'm trying my best to do that here. I think this is looking okay. I'm actually going to add a shadow that's right up in this region. I'm seeing that the forehead distance is a little off, so I'm going to tweak that. Kind of goes about here. And there's no shame in realizing you made a mistake on placement and then adjusting accordingly. It's all part of the process. That's something we all go through. I'll come back and work on the hair later. But I did get that a little closer, so that's good. Then we have some shadow over here. We have the shadow portion, and then the mid-tone. It's kind of in this region. And then the highlight is right over on this side. And that's obviously gonna help give sort of a three-dimensional look, being aware of the placement of the shadows, the midtones, which are in between a highlight, which is pure white, and a dark, right? That's the midtone, and then the highlight of pure white. This is one of my favorite parts, coming through and using the blending stump. This is a super, super helpful tool. Okay, so I'm seeing that I need to increase the darkness around this region here. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, so hopefully you can see that increasing the darkness there, it made it look more three-dimensional, which is what I'm going for here. Also need to increase the darkness on the eye a little bit. And the eye over here needs to be a lot darker. I'm kind of losing the eyebrows, so sometimes you have to go back and add those in, make those a little darker. Just kind of doing the feathering. And I'm going to use the blending stump here. Just kind of adding some more shadows under the eye. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Okay, now we are going to do a little bit of shading on this side. So for this one, we have a highlight kind of right in this region. And then a couple other contours that we'll try and watch out for, but majority of this is going to be kind of that mid-tone. So I'm just going to really lightly shade. This should give me enough graphite on the blending stump. And the highlight is like right along the cheekbone here. Okay, so let me blend this out, see where this gets us. Keeping it really light. Come over here a little bit more. Yeah, I'm realizing this was a little too dark. Erase some of this. Go over here and get rid of some of the graphite in the stump. Okay. And the lip here kind of went a little further than it needed to. Okay. Whoops. Erase that reference. And then this is all like really like just a giant highlight. So this is going to be kind of tricky to to pull off, but let's see if I can do it. There's a little bit of a crease here. You gotta be really light with this line. I've drawn this part a lot and I almost always make it too dark. It's just a suggestion that it's there. Yeah, I think that's too dark. Okay, we'll see. Yeah, it's too dark. Okay, it's looking close. I think we're making some progress. Noticing the eye here kind of had a mistake. I think I need some darker values on the eye. Okay, that was helpful. Okay, let's add a little bit of shadow underneath the eye. Again, I'm just looking at the contours of the shadow. So in other words, where are there dark spots in the reference? And that's going to help create that effect of three-dimensionality that we're going for. This eyebrow needs some serious TLC. So let's see if we can do better. Fixing that eyebrow helped a lot. Okay, it's looking good. I'm gonna make these nostril portions a little darker. do just a couple more touch-ups here. Then we'll move on to the hair, and we should be about finished. Make this a little darker. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. We're going to move on to the hair now. I say that and then see something else I want to adjust. I want the highlight on the cheekbone to pop a little bit more. Got some shadow from the hair. Under the eyes needs to be a little more shadow, a little darker there. Okay, let's move on to the hair now. Let me get rid of these marks over here. Okay, so with the hair, you want to do some light shading initially in the direction the hair is flowing. That's what I'm going to do to begin with. Just what I'm looking for here, the darker regions. I'm just shading those darker. And you can just kind of blend that out. You're just wanting to follow the flow of the hair and then looking for where there are highlights. And the highlight parts, you can, you'll actually like not really draw those. You'll just kind of suggest that there's hair there. I'll try and show an example of that shortly. And I'm by no means an expert on hair. Like I said, I'm still learning a lot myself. So this right here is a region with a highlight, and you see how this side I kind of lightly shaded, this side lightly shaded, and in the middle I'm not going to put anything. You can see I kind of feathered a few lines here to give that effect of there's still hair in this region, but it's highlighted, so you're not really seeing it. But there's still a suggestion that it's there, and that's all we need. And you just continue the same kind of technique, just looking for where are the dark areas, where there are the midtones, where are the highlights. Just make sure you're always drawing in the direction the hair's flowing. Okay. And there's some flyaway hairs around here. Those are fun to draw in. I will probably cut the video here, or maybe speed it up or something, so you're not just watching me kind of follow the same process for a while. So I will speed this part up just a little bit. All right, everyone, I finished the hair, at least for how much I want to do for this demonstration of how to draw a face. Taking a step back, there's a couple more final touches I want to make, and then I will call it finished. Just want to put some eyelashes down here. I hope this drawing was helpful for you. Hopefully you learned something new, something that helps you with your portraiture. I'm still have a lot to learn myself, but I enjoy the challenge of these types of drawings. They're fun to work on. And if yours doesn't look like something you're happy with, just keep at it. I wish I had my other sketchbook with me. I don't have it with me at the moment to where I could show you some of my first sketches, they were really, really, really bad. So just keep at it. As long as you don't quit, you'll just keep getting better and eventually be really proud of the level your drawing skills are at. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Again, really hope you learned something, got some value from this tutorial. If there's anything else you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments section. Thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your day. Bye.